Story 1. This happened to a coworker years and years ago. We were tellers at a local bank. Every Christmas, we had tiny candy canes to give to the kids of customers. One guy came through with his child. With his transactions, he had cash back. Teller 1 was helping him. She proceeded to give him his cash in a $100 bill and the candy cane for his child. He looked at her and said, "Can I have that broken up?" She then proceeded to bash the candy cane to a pulp with my stapler and gave it back to him. Teller 2 just looked at her after the man said thanks and drove off and said, "I think he meant the $100 bill. I will remember this story forever." Edit. Thanks for the gold. This is my very favorite story from working there. We had a good group. I still love those people. Story 2. I've worked in restaurants since I was 16. When I bring someone to a table, I say, "Enjoy." After any drink or plate of food I put down at a table, I do the same. Well, I guess it was just inevitable that when a man asked me where the washroom was, and I directed him, I told him to enjoy. Story 3. I work in a prison where I occasionally have an inmate say, "All right, officer, have a good night. Drive home safe." I reply with, "Thanks, you too," despite them having multiple life sentences. My first silver thank you. Story 4. I once saw a flustered young lawyer address a judge as "Oh Lord." He was a big church person and had kind of fallen into a prayer cadence as he nervously argued. Everyone pretended it had not happened. Story 5. When talking with family, we always end our calls with "I love you." So, I'm on a call with my longtime assistant, and as the call ends, without thinking, I say, "I lo," and stop, horrified as I couldn't think of how to finish it. Thank God she had a sense of humor. She said, "Ah, come on now, you can say it. Go ahead, tell me you love me." So I did, and we laughed about it for years. Story 6. Calling your wife mom is pretty bad. I did that once almost 20 years ago, and the cringe hasn't lessened over time. Edit. We never had kids, so it's not like anyone else was calling her mom. So, yeah, super awkward. Yay. Story 7. I had a coworker who would jokingly call our chief Big Daddy behind his back. We were all working a little late one night, and she let, "Hey, Big Daddy," slip as he walked in. To her credit, she owned it and now calls him that in regular conversation. Still weird though. Story 8. I am one of those never save numbers in my phone kind of guys. When I was in the army, I was stationed somewhere with a different area code than mine and got to talking to a local girl. Things were getting heated one night over text, so we were sending raunchy things back and forth. I was not paying attention for a moment and sent a message to the wrong person by mistake. My sergeant replied, "All right, I am not really into all that, but make sure you show up to formation in the morning." Story 9. Not me, but my mom. She was in a meeting and not paying attention for whatever reason. Then someone asked her a question and she responded with, "What's that, honey?" Made me crack up for so long. Story 10. My old boss and my husband's names were one letter apart. I worked in a daycare, so the owner and all the staff often texted one another to update each other on kids, any issues parents had, and general questions. My husband was working third, and I was working first. We didn't get to see each other much, and most of our conversation was done via text. On my very first week, I was in a rush after getting into work and texted my husband the same thing I always texted him when I got into work. "Hey babe, I'm here. I hope your night was as awesome as you are. I love you so much. Your dinner is in the crock pot." When I went on break, I checked my phone. Nothing back from my husband, but my boss had texted me. It read, "Love you too. Moi." I was so confused until I looked back at the messages and realized I had sent her the text meant for my husband. Changed her contact name to Boss after that one. Thank God she had a good sense of humor about it. Story 11. I am a teacher. I unthinkingly scolded my dog the other day with, "Follow the directions." We kind of just stared at each other for a second while I realized how ridiculous I sounded. Story 12. These days I rarely talk on the phone to anyone who isn't family, so "love you, bye" is a standard phone call ending. We had some issues at our house last year, And I'm pretty sure I told 2 contractors and the insurance adjuster I love them. Edit. Thanks to all who posted to let me know I'm not the only one. I love you all. Story 13. I'm a dental hygienist. My patient was a man who had just turned 91 the day before. Instead of saying, "Happy late birthday," like a normal human being, I accidentally, and very loudly, said, "Happy last birthday." The look on his face, everyone. This was also my second day at my new job. To answer everyone's question on if he's still alive, I have no idea. This happened about 2 months ago, so I won't be scheduled to see him until sometime in July. Fingers crossed he comes back, or I'm gonna feel even worse. Also, thank you for the gold and silver, but please put that towards a charity of your choosing instead. My idiocy doesn't need rewarding. Story 14. I refer to the pediatrician as the veterinarian for the first year or two of our child's life. I even did it in the office and over the phone with the staff. Yes, we had pets long before we had kids. Thankfully, they claimed to find it charming and reported I wasn't the first to make the mistake. Story 15. I was given a lift home by a colleague from work once, and when he stopped to let me out of the car, I leaned in for a kiss as it was what I would do to my wife. Thankfully, he was looking the other way at the time. Story 16. Once I was in the airport and I went to get a sandwich. I stood at the counter to tell the worker to give me a turkey sandwich, which he prepared. He handed it to me, and his coworker noticed he didn't microwave it, so he extended his hand to me over those glass containers, which display food in them, so he could take it to microwave it. I didn't understand why he was extending his hand, so I smiled and shook it. He laughed and pointed at my food and told me he had to heat it. I felt really dumb. Story 17. I once went to the wrong floor of my apartment building and tried to open the wrong apartment. I stood there jiggling the doorknob for a few minutes before realizing what I had done and quickly went up the stairs before the resident came out to see what was happening. Story 18. On the way back from a client meeting with one of the partners, he wasn't paying attention when the light turned green, and I said, "Hey, you have to go." And then I died. Story 19. I called my housekeeper Daddy instead of Darcy. It was an autocorrect mistake in a text, but I didn't notice for 24 hours when I realized she never texted me back. I was absolutely mortified, but she thought it was hilarious. When she texted me 2 weeks later, her opening line was, "Who's your daddy?" I actually lost my mind in a meeting reading that. She's the sweetest older lady, and now my nickname for her is Daddy. Story 20. Handed a 20 to the officer instead of my license last night. Edit. Thanks for the gold, friend. Story. I was the designated driver, so we leave a friend's house and sit in the car. Then, before I can even turn on the car, the officer pulls up shining the light. So I walk where he can see me from a distance and ask if I can approach. I ask him what's going on, and he says he can't discuss that as of yet and asks for my ID. Nervously, I hand him a 20, and he looks at me like I was an idiot, which I don't blame him for. He says, "I don't need this right now. Give me your ID." We talk for a bit, looking for an armed perpetrator. He then walks around my car and looks inside. Then, after identifying everyone, he says, "Sorry about the trouble. Have a good night." Story 21. When a customer is leaving the restaurant and he says to me, "Have a good night. Love you," and I, God help me, say, "Love you too. Take care." Then we spend a silent moment just looking at each other and both turn away at the same time, never to discuss it again. Story 22. My boss is old enough to be my dad, although his kids are younger than me. Sometimes he reminds me of my dad, and I have almost told him, "Oh, okay, Chip," my dad's name, in a sarcastic tone of "I don't agree with you." Once, when we were having a disagreement about something related to our other leader, he slipped and called me his daughter's name while giving me advice. He wasn't telling me I had to do what he was saying, but was sharing why he thought I should. It really made me feel that he was genuinely giving me the best advice he could. I still didn't agree, but I did take his advice. I know this isn't exactly an answer to the question, but life has been a little hard lately, and typing out a nice moment made me feel a bit better, so I am going to leave it. Story 23. Does putting vegetables in the washing machine instead of the fridge count? Edit. Hey everyone. Thanks for the likes. I'm so happy right now. And also, thanks to the kind internet stranger for giving me my first gold. Story 24. I have a friend who used to work as a nursery school teacher and then went to a job in an office. The transition was not easy. Apparently, she started her first presentation by saying, "All right, everyone, quiet down. Fingers on lips." The reason she tells the story is that about half the people in the room, including her immediate boss, did it instinctively. Story 25. Every day when I leave work, I text my significant other and let him know whether I'm going straight home or elsewhere. The last person I had texted was my boss. I sent her the text, "Baby, free from work. I'm headed to the store to get groceries. I love you so much." Imagine my surprise when my boss, who I'm luckily close with, texted me back, "LOL, good girl?" I was so confused. I opened the text conversation and realized what I had sent her. I sank into a puddle in the middle of the grocery store in embarrassment. We all had a good laugh about it the next day. Story 26. When I got my nachos at the cinema, the guy at the counter said, "Enjoy your film." And I said, "You too. Holy Jesus Christ on a motorbike. Thanks for the silver." Story 27. I was out working with my dad once, and his client called and asked for rates. I told him, and when he said, "Okay, thank you," I said, "Love you," and hung up. It was strange. We had to clean his carpet the next day. He was about 6 feet 2 inches, 300 pounds of pure strength. When we were leaving, he stopped me and asked if I talked to him the day prior, and I said yes. He said real gently, "I love you too," and just lost it. Story 28. I called my first boss Mom. She was not even kind. She was an absolute tyrant and hated by everyone, except me for some reason. On top of that, she started liking me after that. To be fair, it was an internship and I was 18 years old. Story 29. Getting my children's names mixed up or calling them by the pets' names. Thank you to everyone who upvoted me and commented with your stories. Sorry I haven't replied to you all, but I've upvoted all of you. Glad to see I'm not alone. Virtual high five. Story 30. Accidentally threw my phone in the air and tried to catch it with my mouth, as one would do with a grape or something. The shower head sprayed water on the toilet bowl, so I wiped it off with a reusable towel and proceeded to throw the towel in the toilet. Saw a cockroach on the ground while I was on the phone wearing only pants. Didn't step on it, no, that would have been sane. I crushed it with my palm. Thought to myself, well, I got this far, and picked it up and threw it in the bushes. The protocol at robotics is to yell safety before using a heavy tool. Out of sleep deprivation, I yelled, "Good morning," and turned on the massive saw. Immediately turned it off without cutting the piece and collapsed laughing. The list goes on. Edit. Seeing requests for more, I can remember 3 more as of now. When I was little, I was walking around the house with a go-gurt, and I found it kind of fun to hit random furniture with it before opening it. You can imagine I must have been the only one in the house to be surprised when it burst and coated my bed in strawberry yogurt. Happened a bit more recently. We had chocolate milk in the refrigerator and I was thirsty. My brother and I were both in the kitchen when I grabbed the bottle and opened it. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted the label saying, "Shake well before drinking." So I did, without closing the cap. Gave my brother a tastier shower than he was used to. Later that same week, my brother would make orange juice in our juice press and he would be about 2 to 3 orange halves in before he noticed he forgot to put a container underneath, and he was just spilling orange juice onto the table. Edit 2. First silver, never thought being this stupid would pay off. I think I'm going to put these stories under the umbrella term I'm coining right now, henceforth known as brain lag. I'm going to sleep now and I'll keep replying in the morning. Thank you so much. Edit 3. Just woke up to gold. Who would have thought these internet points would be so desirable? First time getting gold, so I'm happy it's on my in-depth description of why I shouldn't procreate. Thank you again so much. Edit 4. People keep saying they're dying from this comment and it seems kind of a health hazard at this point. Thankful for the second gold, but you're gonna kill everybody. Story 31. Calling your wife mom and her calling you dad. It happens to real parents if they are really kid-focused, and then they start liking it and doing it on purpose. Story 32. I got my haircut one time and I was paying at the register, and the lady ringing me up behind the counter gave me my card back and then said to me, "I hope you enjoy your haircut." Without thinking, I just looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You too." Story 33. Getting into the wrong car and looking over to realize you're sitting with a complete stranger who is extremely confused. Or adjusting your shirt in a window reflection and realizing someone's inside. Story 34. Hello, Mr. Johnson. This is Richard calling from XYZ Incorporated. How are you today? Well, not so great. I'm driving to my wife's funeral right now. Oh, I am so sorry. Well, I just wanted to follow up real quick to make sure you received that email I sent you the other day. Story 35. Sending the wrong text to the wrong person. In my case, I sent my boyfriend something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, but if you want to stay partners with me, you have to do your portion of the work." It was supposed to go to this incredibly lazy guy I got paired up with to do a presentation. My poor boyfriend was very confused. Story 36. I call my husband Babe. My brother's name is Dave. Apparently, my dumb brain thinks that rhyming words are the same, so I've interchanged the two with horrifying and embarrassing frequency. Story 37. My friends and I have this thing where we say, "Hurt me more, Daddy," when we beat each other in a game or something. It's been this way for years. Fast forward, we were gaming at a Magic the Gathering table, and the newest guy dropped a counterspell card and got rid of my combo. I said, "Hurt me more, Daddy," out of habit. The whole table went silent. The new guy was a priest. He straight-faced said, "I prefer to be called Father."